Let me just introduce our today's expert is Joanna. Joanna is professional facilitator, coach, and business trainer with 15 years of senior executive background from Coachwise, Coaching, Leadership, and Mentoring Center. Thank you, Joanna, for accepting our invitation for today. And I think from now on, I can pass the voice to you.
Okay, thank you, Bartosz. Welcome, everyone. Good morning. Nice to have 12 participants, as I can see, at least on the name list. I'm not going to add anything more about myself, as Bartosz did that already. So let us straight go to the content of our webinar, because we only have 1 hour, and I'll try to pass as much information as possible on how to facilitate meetings, and especially how to facilitate meetings in an online setup that we are experiencing. So let me just now share my presentation, which will be only, you should be seeing it right now. Okay, so I see Bartosz nodding, so probably most of you can see that now. So basically, we are already in the new normal. We have...
Excuse me, Anna, could you just turn the presentation mode on, because we can see all PowerPoint window right now.
Yes, I realized that, but I did it on purpose, Bartosz, because this is helping me to navigate or to switch to the slide I want to refer to.
That's fine.
So, so I did that on purpose. So we are basically, and all of us, all of you, we are already in a situation that we start to call normal. We used to hold many meetings, many congresses, events in person, meeting people in person, face to face. But right now, our reality looks already as that Zoom window, bottom right. But I need to tell you, as a person who leads a lot of events online and a lot of workshops online and facilitated meetings online, it's hardly ever the situation that I can see so many faces on cameras and on screens. For some reason, this is kind of still a kind of, kind of a handicap, and people are not so willing to switch cameras unless a culture of an organization requires that, or this is explicitly being requested. So I hope you share the same experience. And since we are here on a practical webinar, how to effectively lead such events, how to manage online, how to engage people into online events, that would be already my first hint. Please be aware of that everything will create more engagement and more participation when you ask people to be visible. So basically, this is my first request I usually make. I'm not going to do that now because we are in the presenter mode here on that webinar, and this is not a workshop. But in any meeting that you want people to get engaged, stay engaged, ask them to switch on their cameras, make themselves visible. And this is nothing wrong about being not like fully dressed or fully prepared or people in the background. We call it already a new normal. So, and this comes really from our basic human need. We haven't stopped being social creatures. We need eye contact. We need body language to read and analyze and interpret all information that is coming from others. So if you want to communicate clearly, be understood, read intentions, you need to see the other person. So this is my first recommendation. This is probably pretty obvious for all of you, but I know that many people are still reluctant to show themselves on video in that new setup. So let me quickly tell you what we are going to cover. There's loads of topics and loads of material, how to facilitate online, how to create the atmosphere, how to engage people. But since we only have 1 hour, I will very briefly and quickly, I'll try to speak fast. This is not my normal pace of speaking, but I'll try to be fast. We'll quickly cover some information about available tools, just to give you a reference, just to give you a short intro to that. I will also tell you about the rules of facilitation, because facilitation as itself, it's not a new notion. This is something that has existed already before online. It has a set of rules, it has its definition, and it has its cases where it's used mostly. I'll briefly refer to how to moderate, what skills you actually need to develop to be an efficient facilitator. And I have created a set of basic or primary rules on how to engage people into participation. So that's the plan for today. And let me start, because we will be using another tool, except of WebEx we are on right now. I will ask you all to use your own smartphone. So please ensure that you will have now right now your smartphone in your hand. You will be using that. I'll guide you through that. So we will be, and in that way, I'm going to show you also one useful tool that you could use to engage people. So I'm assuming, because I'm not seeing you guys and I'm not hearing you guys, but I'm assuming that you have your smartphones on. But let me do a quick check, and maybe let me do a quick check. And if you could write in the chat right now, yes, a yes if you are prepared to, and with your smartphone in your hand. So I believe we'll be seeing the chat, because right now I'm not seeing that due to me presenting. I'll try to, oh, okay, so my request to all of you guys is now to write in the chat a simple yes if you have your smartphone ready.
We have also some answers in the Q&A section, so please stay clear on that and use chat box. The Q&A section
great.
is something different, so we are using chat.
Yeah.
Today.
I'm very interested in as many as possible of you using this right now, because we will create some poll and statistics. So I'm obviously interested to see some potential answers, not only from one or two people, but from as many as possible. Okay, that's great. So Bartosz, how is our line? How is our list?
Our list is pretty long. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 years.
That's great. That's great. It seems like everyone has just listened, and it's still like engaged enough to use it. All right. So my request right now will be, okay, let me switch off the chat, is that I'm displaying on a web page, on the presentation, I'm displaying right now a web page. This is www.menti.com. And please go to that web page right now with your, just by a simple browser. Please go to the web page. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to share. So let me stop sharing this, and I'm going to share some other page with you. Okay. So I'm going to share right now the page that your landing page, so the page that you probably land on. And okay, let me start presenting. So the goal of that is that I'm going to ask you, what tools are you actually use in your online meetings? And the question is phrased like, what do you use most? So what is the most popular in your organization, in your setup, as participant or as someone who is actually delivering? And to answer that question, you need to enter the code, and the code is displayed on the top of that page. So if you could enter the code visible there, and in that way, you should be seeing the same page I'm already seeing and be able, right? Okay, thank you, Bartosz. So enter the code 2843690, top of the page. This is where you can find it. This is individual code for this poll. And if you could just, tap and vote by that, what are your common tools, Right, so we have already, we are already seeing some answers coming. Let me see, 7 people already participated, 9. Okay, that gives us a nice overview. Okay, 12 people have participated, lovely. So see how quickly it goes and how quickly we can see, ask a simple question and make a quick overview of what is common and what is used by this particular group. So as you can see, Microsoft Teams is #1, the most popular among all of you, and consecutively Zoom. In a moment, I'm going to tell you a little bit about what are these tools all about and why we use Zoom. We obviously use Microsoft Teams because many companies and corporate setups already used Microsoft before, so Teams was a natural choice. And Zoom, since the beginning of our lockdown and pandemic, as we only switched to online, Zoom has lived the most business hype, and they were, for some time, they were actually monopolist due to one particular function that they introduced before. And this function is called Breakout Rooms. So for as long as other companies didn't pick up the same functionality, Zoom was really like holding the kingdom of online workshops, especially if you want to engage people. Breakout Rooms proved to be, you know, the #1 tool that people were looking for. So we have Skype for Business, WebEx. Some of you would be using none of these online tools. And just to mention, I don't know how many participants are actually from Poland, but there is the #10 is a Polish tool that has very nice functionality called Click Meeting. I've used it many times and never let me down. So for those of you who only want to start with, check out the Click Meeting as it's really it's a really good tool for most of features. Okay, nicely done. Thank you for participating. That gives us nice overview, but this was just to, you know, to start with. So let me
just with a brief comment. Never heard about Click Meeting before, but we try it with pleasure. We've got one comment from a participant in our chat box. In Zoom, you can make polls directly in Zoom. Just to clarify, WebEx also has this possibility, this option, but we wanted to use external tool to present how does it influence interaction and how helpful it might be. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. So actually, in most of tools, you can use some kind of poll. Zoom and Teams and WebEx, many of them, and Google obviously, but some of them are more user-friendly and some of them create more interaction and some of them less. So my goal was to show you just another tool, and this one is even a free version, so every one of you can create it in like within minutes or seconds, create a poll like this. So let me stop sharing this and come back to the presentation. Okay, right, so nicely done. All right. Coming back to the tools, most of you, as we could see, use some of them or all of them, depending on where you connect to or whom you connect to. Let me just give you a few my own, this is no statistics, but maybe a few insights from my own experience from using them. I've been using Zoom probably the most due to breakout rooms and opportunity to divide larger groups into smaller groups, have a discussion, and Zoom has even worked on this feature by developing further functions. So right now you can even have a person stepping out of the breakout room and working alone for some time. You can have a feature of asking a question to the host who has actually stayed in the main room. But good news is that Microsoft Teams is actually right now picking up, and within weeks, they have announced it already months ago, but within weeks we should have a similar function on Microsoft Teams. So if this is true and this comes into reality, we actually have Microsoft Teams fully featured for online meetings of any kind. Skype for Business, many companies using that, but it's really limited in what you actually can do. And on the right-hand side of that page, you can see 3 other tools that are actually not for holding meetings, but for other special needs. Mentimeter was the one that we just used, and very similar to that, and with the same features and function is Slido. It's just a different visual setup, but it also has a free version that is fully enough for most of usages, unless you hold, events for like 150 people and you need the professional version. And let me just mention one of those. This is Mural. Mural is something that creates and recreates a situation when you want to work with participants on Post-its. So just imagine a big blank flip chart, which is virtual, and you can place Post-its on Mural, sort them out, cluster them, different colors, and so on. So Mural also has a free version, and good news is that this free version will serve most of your individual needs. I realize that there is a very nice feature at Google, which is called Google Jamboard. Google Jamboard is also a page with Post-its, and probably all of you who have any kind of Gmail account will have it already. So if you just go to your Gmail and try to find the Jamboard function. Okay, let me write that in the chat because I didn't. It's called Google Jamboard. I didn't mention it here. So if you go there and check how useful it is to collect ideas, to brainstorm, to write down things that people discuss, to sort them out later, and have it saved, because Google, as everything on the Google disk is saved automatically, Google will save that for you. So this is really, really useful. Okay, I know that Bartosz mentioned to me that there might be some other webinar dedicated solely to technology, right? Bartosz, can you say something about that?
We are working on that, and probably in the series of Leaders in Digital Era, we will prepare such a webinar. So we're going to concentrate more on the technical aspects of those available tools on the market.
Okay. All right, so this was really like just a signal what is available, probably nothing new for you, but just, a summary of what we could use. Let me now go over to our actual topic. So to the topic of facilitation. Facilitation, and I'll start right off with the definition, because this is a kind of a new notion. And facilitation is something that has appeared and become more and more popular in the recent years. So I'll give you just a moment for you to read what's on that screen. All right, so as you may have noticed, facilitation assumes a few things to be led in an effective way. And these assumptions would not always be valid for you guys. You will be leading meetings in different setups. You will be probably leading meetings with your peers, with your people from your teams, and so on. But to perform a pure or generally facilitation, is kind of important that this person who is performing that is neutral to the group. So that's why companies very often invite a person from outside to facilitate a meeting with a group of people. But I realize this is kind of, this is kind of an ideal world. It doesn't mean that this is not possible, but it might be a little bit distracted by the fact that you if you're a manager of a team, or if you're yourself a member of that team, the facilitation will be somehow distracted or interfered with your own role, because you will have possibly your own interest in some desired outcome of that meeting. But if you want to hold a facilitated meeting, a common practice in companies is actually that people invite other people, like peers from other teams, or someone who is pretty neutral, and an HR person serves this role quite often, to facilitate a meeting for them. And as you may see in that definition, facilitator has to be someone who is generally accepted by people who she or he is going to work with. So this is absolutely out of question that a meeting is facilitated by someone who is, for instance, has a conflict of interest, or is a person generally whose attitude or for some other reason skills are not being accepted by the members of that facilitated meeting. So maybe this has some significance for the online meetings. It also has to be held with that assumption that the person who is delivering that builds basic trust towards the meeting members. And where we actually use facilitation. And my question to you guys is right now, use chat again. What is your intuition? What is your hunch telling you? Where possibly could we use a facilitated meeting? Where could we use this form of practice? If you could write some answers in the chat, what is your idea? I hope I'm going to see that. Yeah. What are the purpose? When do we use facilitation? Why would we like to use this form of cooperation in a group? Bartek, can you see any answers?
Right now they are just appearing. I've got few. They are all directed to me, to the host privately. So that's probably why.
All right. Okay. So tell us what you can see.
I will just read them out loud. In focus groups, for example, for brainstorming, for decision making, for trainings, for socializing, to come to a consensus decision, come to a common decision, reorganizing a team, and discuss about the roles.
That's perfect. So exactly these are the main reasons. When you have a group of people where decision is not taken yet, or there is not an outcome that is already known, when you have a group of people, you invite a facilitation method to discuss, to brainstorm, to find consensus, to resolve conflict, to see what is available, what are the available options. And usually the outcome of a facilitated meeting is some kind of consensus decision. There are other types of facilitated meetings that are actually serving not to achieve consensus, but at least to see all available options or opinions in the group. And this is kind of a different facilitation. And by the way, I need to tell you, this is a science of itself already. So there are like professional courses and professional education for facilitators. There is an international association of facilitators that holds the standards of that profession, where you can certify yourself. And this is actually a very long and difficult process of being certified, with a lot of supervision and with a lot of feedback and with a real exam. So this profession has already been like widespread, but it has like solid know-how and solid structure to follow. And I'm saying that for those of you who would be possibly interested into digging in and making yourself to a professional facilitator. So what's the name of this association? Thank you for this question. Is IAF, which is International Association of Facilitators. You can Google it up, and there is actually a lot of material available on the web, which is and white papers and a lot of free accessible material to make yourself more professional in that. What is actually facilitator doing? So let me jump over to main areas of interest of a facilitator and you potentially. So I was trying to show it in the most simple way, but generally, if you enter a facilitator role towards a group, you need to be responsible for 3 things and not more than that. And these 3 things are: you're held accountable for delivering a purpose of this meeting. So you need to hold the group towards the purpose, like the goal. So if we have a meeting where we actually agreed to find consensus on some issue, the facilitator is responsible for ending the meeting with that goal. And obviously, what is inside that consensus? This is not facilitator's responsibility, because he never or she never is responsible for the content or for the quality of that discussion. But if the desired outcome and purpose of this meeting is to find some consensus, it's facilitator's responsibility to lead the group towards that delivery. Another responsibility is process. So facilitators is actually an expert in how to. How to means what methods am I using? If I work with brainstorming, I need to know the methods for brainstorming. There are many. If I work for consensus as desired outcome, I need to know all the methods and tools for building consensus. How do I navigate the process so the people have the trust and the feeling and they follow some structure to build a common consensus? And another responsibility of facilitators is to be very aware of what's happening in the group itself, how people react, who has been leading this discussion, has the have all voices been heard? Do we have any hidden agendas in the group? So basically, people's behaviors. It's not that the facilitator is responsible for these behaviors, but he or she is responsible for being attentive to that. Because sometimes what holds groups and meetings from achieving the goal is not knowledge and not skills, but sometimes it's some attitudes that, and you know it, I'm sure, that sometimes it's just attitudes or hidden agendas that prevent achieving the goal. And facilitators needs to be very alert and attentive to what's happening in the group and how people react. And that's why this is the reason I need to tell you guys that this is the reason why it's gotten so difficult in the online setup. So obviously, when you have a group of people in the room, you obviously see all the interactions. You're not just seeing faces on the screen reacting towards yourself. You see how people interact with each other, who is speaking with who is not speaking with whom, how people behave, what are words they're using towards each other. And this has been very limited online. So even moreover, it becomes very important that you see at least faces of the people reacting, and that you put people as much as possible into smaller groups for interaction. That's why one of the tools, I cannot imagine facilitating online meetings without this possibility to put people in smaller groups, breakout rooms for discussion, for exchange, generating ideas, because only then they can intensify interaction. So these are 3 areas of responsibility. And to give you another notion, because it's quite an important notion in the facilitator's way of acting, what facilitator actually does is interventions. And intervening means stepping into one of these 3 responsibility areas. Sometimes you can intervene because we are getting off the purpose. The discussion is getting off the topic. So you need to intervene because you're being held accountable for getting to that, achieving that goal. So you need to intervene. Sometimes, as a facilitator, you need to intervene into the process because you have designed a process, but it's not going well. People are not buying in, people not participating. Somebody is like, doing other stuff. So you need to intervene. What is actually happening here? What is the structure? Are we really using the correct structure? Do we need to change something? And sometimes you intervene into what's happening among other people. So you actually name what is happening, what are people's reactions, asking about that, actively seeking information on behaviors. And these interventions, because we only have limited time, but I'll just give you I think maybe I'll write that down. If you Google more on interventions, you will find out that there are different kinds of interventions. So as you just imagine, a facilitator can intervene in a very direct way. Like if I see some people getting off the topic, I will intervene and just say what I'm seeing. Like, and this is called directive intervention. Like, I would say, Bartosz, I haven't heard you talking for like an hour. Right? So what is happening? This is a very direct intervention. Or I could intervene in a more autonomous way, where I actually ask the group, what are they observing about people's behaviors? So if I intervene in an autonomous way, I would say like, hey group, how do you think? How good are we here in democratic voice? Have everybody spoken? What do you think? So this is me directing, intervening in a way that allows the group to answer rather a question, not me saying things just from my point of view. And I'm leaving it here because the types of interventions and only a topic for itself. So basically because I designed and I lead courses on facilitation, so I teach other people to facilitate as well. Let me tell you that types of intervention, how to practice them, how to choose the right one, it's already a science for itself, and we could spend like 2 days of workshop practicing just that. But I'm leaving it here just to give you an inspiration, maybe for those of you who are interested.
Yeah, and can I jump in with one short question here? Sure. Because you'll be describing the role of facilitator, and there are a few different terms and roles that are around, like trainers and coaches, and they seem to be somehow close and similar to each other. There are some slight differences. Could you comment on that and explain what are the differences in the role of facilitator and for example, coach and trainer?
Yeah, sure. Thanks. That's a good question. It actually comes up quite often. So what is the difference between the trainer or a moderator or a facilitator or a coach? All of these roles can be performed with the group. And so if you imagine a trainer is someone who more talks, who is delivering some content, who has know-how and expertise and shares it with the group. That's the trainer, right? You're being paid for it as a trainer because you have more expertise and you want to share this expertise and teach others. If you're a coach and you're and the team or the sponsor asks you to come over as a coach's responsibility is very limited. So actually the coach is so far behind the group that the group is actually responsible for the outcome of the meeting. And sometimes the group or the team is ready for the outcome and sometimes is not ready for the outcome. And coach will not intervene and push the group towards achieving some desired outcome. And that's the main difference between facilitator and coach. So facilitator is someone who has agreed with the sponsor that this group has to leave this room with the deliverable, with the outcome. And the facilitators leads the process so the group achieve the result, this result, although the quality of this result is a common responsibility, right? So that's the basic differences. Have I answered your question, Bartosz?
I think yes.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So let me move on. We're checking on time. How to prepare yourself for facilitated meeting, any kind of meeting, but also for online meeting. Okay, let me switch off the chat here. In a preparation phase, first of all, you need to ensure that all participants know and understand why is this meeting actually being held? Why am I invited to a 1 hour, 2 hour, 3 hours, sometimes 8 hour workshop to stay together, stick together with a group of people? So we need to understand the purpose. When you know the purpose, because usually what facilitators does, he will design the whole structure of that facilitated meeting to achieve that goal. A step before that is to agree that purpose with someone who pays you actually for performing this role. So if I go to companies and they ask me, okay, can you facilitate a meeting on because we have a conflict between, this is a recent example from myself. There was a company where there was a huge conflict between sales department and back office department, this conflict actually resulting from not clear roles. So the HR department who have hired me, they said, okay, we need this group to leave this room with at least their own opinions and needs being expressed. So I contract this with the sponsor, and this is my purpose. This becomes the goal of the meeting, and I need to share this purpose with participants. And I highly advise you guys to share this purpose as early as possible when the meeting is being set up. So already in the invitation, it has to be really clearly formulated, like, okay, we're meeting to share all your opinions and needs concerning the cooperation between these two departments. And the outcome of that meeting has to be a list of something. So if you share that early enough, that's an important phase of important step in the preparation phase. If you have that purpose, you can formulate it in the form of question. And in facilitation, we call it a focus question. And this question has to be visible at all times during the meeting. So what actually facilitators do, they write this question on the board, on the whiteboard, on the slide, or on the real physical wall. So this question is visible at all times. This is the question we are focusing, because in that way, it makes it much easier to navigate if the discussion or meeting strays off that focus. And also the third thing to design and to set up and inform participants about is what is the desired outcome. Is it an action plan? Is it just the points of discussion? Is it a to-do list? Is it, sometimes we call it an exit story. So I'll give you another example. There is a board meeting to agree how do we change our strategy now, because COVID has impacted our company so heavily that we need to reorganize, we need to redirect, we need to refocus. So let us agree, how do we change our strategy? So very often, an outcome of such a meeting is the so-called exit story. And exit story means nothing less than how do we actually inform other people what we were doing here? How do we talk about that? What is the common communication that everybody leaving this room will be cascading? What are we going to say? So sometimes, I'm giving you just an example, because sometimes this is a desired outcome of the meeting and it has to be just named. So these are the, this is the preparation phase. Do you guys have any questions to that one? So this is preparation. Maybe if there are questions, put them in the chat and I'll have a sip of water right now. Bartosz, any questions? Can you see any?
I don't see anything in the chat box right now.
Okay. You can ask any question anytime, and Bartosz will scroll down and tell me if there are any. So what I wanted to mention as a next thing is that a facilitator has to possess certain skill set. And as every skill set, this is doable, this is learnable, this is something you can acquire and develop throughout all your life. This is not something that you're given. And let me just give you a quick overview of what are the necessary skills of facilitator. Basic skills. So as you can imagine, this is a person who works with people. So I'm going right into the middle. Obviously, communication has to be a well-developed skill. And well-developed, I mean that you know the tools and you know the means of communication that enable people to stay engaged and enable people to open up and share. And also you have a skill set that enables you to react adequately and properly on what is being said in the group. And the basic skill in communication for any facilitator, this is actually as it is for a coach or and a good manager actually, this is the skill of asking questions and how you ask questions, how you formulate questions, so you actually increase the possibility that people will answer with just more than just yes or no. If you ask question, you need to develop your listening skills well, so to understand the meaning of the answer, to connect the answer with other things that have been said and done in the group. So that synthetic skills is also quite important, because a facilitator is often a person that holds like a helicopter view on what was being said in the team or in the group and has to connect the dots. So synthesizing information, listening to it, making a meaning out of that, and saying it out loud are very important communication skills. But there is one more step before you actually meet for facilitated meeting. You need to be able to and know the tools and the methods how to design. So as I mentioned before, if you have a purpose of the meeting, if you know what the desired outcome is, you need to select different methods for different structures. And the knowledge of that is quite important. So for instance, if I'm asked to brainstorm marketing ideas with the marketing department and create a set of ideas, I need to know the methods of that. How do I collect that? How do I sort that out? How do we cluster this? How do we find commonalities? How do we find differences? So there are methods and tools how to do it. Another basic skill for facilitators is confronting. And confronting is naming clearly what is the situation in the room. Like being able to notice and having courage to act upon something that you've noticed. So if I notice that nobody actually speaks up, if I notice that there are differences in opinions, if I notice that people distract, if I notice that many people want to leave the room or are not really like fully mentally engaged in what's happening, I need to name it. So facilitator, and this is very important in an online setup. This confronting has become extremely important because online setup enables people to stay distracted much easier. So as you know from yourself, from your daily life, you can open up as many bars as possible. That just you can scroll internet during meetings. You can just go. You being constantly distracted by other people in your home. There are many things happening, and facilitators has to be very alert and aware of potentially what is happening and being courageous enough to name it, but only because it serves the purpose of that meeting and not just because I want to confront a person just for other reason than sticking to the purpose. There is a funny story connected with that word confronting. And the story is that there is a facilitators world, association of facilitators, and this word has been sometimes used in a different spelling. So instead of confronting, you sometimes use the word carefronting, which is a mixture of word care for someone and confrontation, caring and confrontation. Sometimes, actually, this is actually a skill that you need to develop. Being able to confront in a way that is never offensive, always on purpose, and serves the whole group. And the fourth skill of facilitators is obviously being able to give feedback, what you see. And as you know from many other organizational setups, feedback giving and the tool and the method is also something learnable. This is something that you need to acquire, you need to train and become good at that. Because when I'm sure that many of you has been given feedback in the past that was absolutely unacceptable, and you have been given feedback that was really well working. And there are reasons for that. And usually these reasons come with how you actually do it. So these are the skills. Let me quickly, all right, I'll skip that one. Yeah, Bartosz.
Can I jump in with a short question? Because you've presented this division of skills, that's very interesting. I can imagine that there are probably tons of books on how to improve your skills, how to work on them. But do you have any kind of, I don't know, short tips or practical exercises that everyone can do to work on those skills without actually reading, the professional?
Yeah, Bartosz, to answer this one, of course, I have loads of exercises to each of those skills, and actually each of those skills is a workshop for itself, just to start with. And as with skills, what I guys highly recommend is don't read it up, don't go to books, because there's loads of knowledge, but just you need to practice, you need to do it yourself. You need to confront yourself with how good am I actually in listening, and then practice makes these skills not reading. This is what the point I want to make. But obviously, you can imagine how many books and interest and white papers have been written on how to give feedback, how to communicate, how to ask questions. So there are loads. If you guys are interested, like after that, I don't have it at hand right now, but after that I could give maybe two hints on some reading to that topic. Is that okay, Bartosz? Will you be able to? Yeah.
Yes,
sure.
I will incorporate it with together with the presentation after the
Oh yeah, that's a good idea.
Thanks.
Okay. Right, I'm leaving this out because we have short time, so there are a few other things I wanted to show. These are examples of how to formulate purpose, how to formulate focus question, and the desired outcome. Yeah, so I just leave it for like a couple of seconds so you can look at that. All right, so these are examples. So as you can see, they're very similar. Purpose, focus question, outcome is something different. But these are things that you need to explicitly write and say when you invite people to a meeting, especially online meeting. Everybody has like loads of online meeting right now. So sometimes we don't know really why are we actually meeting? Is it just for us to discuss? Is it just for us to meet? What is the outcome of that meeting? If we know the outcome, the chances are higher that we will work towards the outcome and not just discuss things for like 100 times. Okay, this slide I don't want to skip because this is basically answering the purpose of this webinar that I agreed with Bartosz up front. And these are only a few hints. What actually drives online engagement? So the form that we are making today, like the webinar, me talking, you guys listening, and maybe a few questions, little interaction, this would be probably okay for an hour. everybody will get already tired after an hour. 1 hour and a half is like a maximum for this form of delivery online. So I would never agree to do it like, talk and you guys listen for longer than an hour and a half without interacting with you. But whatever you're planning, now you have to shorten your time frame. So my experience with online meetings and online workshop is now you have to do it's much better to do a series of 3 hours workshop than 2 days in a row, 8 hours long. And this is pretty obvious because our concentration level and obviously, our physical condition that we staying seated all of the time, even if we do some exercise, we stay seated and look at the same screen, makes us much quicker to get tired from that. So if you right now, when people redesign other forms of interaction to online, the tendency and the trend is to make it more often and make it shorter, make it in a series rather than invite people for 1 day, work on one topic. Cameras on, I already told you about, so let us not repeat. But funnily enough, even if we work for a shorter time, we need to ensure that people see people, and I mean see not only like visibility, but also we know each other a little bit better at the beginning of each meeting. If you're not a team, you need to spend some time into warming up, ice breaking, introducing yourself, saying who is from where, like getting into that, human mode, because people will not cooperate or discuss openly anything when there is that basic psychological safety not ensured. So if you meet someone or a group of people for the first time and there is an interaction or a workshop ahead of you, ensure proper time, don't never skip that. Even if there is a small talk, even if there is a little work in small groups. So what I often do, I put people in smaller groups, like groups of 3, groups of 2. Okay, let's just have a chat on the topic of our workshop, or just exchange what happened to you like in the recent weeks. How are you getting on with all that new situation, and so on and so forth. So people get talking about their own, start sharing information, never skip that. If you want the group to stay engaged. If you have a team that has already known each other for some time, and you know who is who, we don't need to introduce each other, then you still need some time to spend with all of them at the beginning to check on, like more personal level. And this actually, there are even like there are appearing research is appearing on that, because we've been in that for months already. And there is a notion of so-called Zoom fatigue, so people being tired from online, and what is actually giving to us, and what are we deprived of. So social interaction are the biggest area of deprivation. We need to build up on purpose some social interaction into the team. So how are things going? Who is doing what? How are we progressing? Not in terms of tasks, but in terms of our, human situation, like everyday situation, home situation. We need to have some space, usually at the beginning of the meeting, to get people into that space. As I told before, engaging people means not talking mostly, but asking and listening. So if I had to recommend something, if you want to practice the first skill of being an effective online facilitator, go straight to the asking question skill, asking questions, and look up what kind of questions are there, how you put them, how you phrase them, how not to phrase this question, many different types of questions, and practice that. So my biggest hint for you guys would be, try to ask more questions and talk less. Try to place more questions and wait for the answers before you start telling your own version or your own story. So if you just watch this balance. Both are important, but try to watch your own balance. Smaller groups really increase the engagement level. Do as much as possible. And on Teams, currently, you can even create simultaneous meetings and ask people to join different links. This is how I do it. I ask like the groups of 3, okay, you go to that link, you go to that link, they're all on Teams, and now spend some time discussing just within that group of things, the topic that I have requested or a question I have asked. All possible, polls, voting, questions in the chat, engaging, as we did that at the beginning with that Mentimeter tools, that will also create some action and engagement. All kinds of virtual flip charts, Jamboard, whiteboard, post-its, Mural, where people actually get in. This is for free, doesn't require it to be signed up, and everybody can access the Mural and write down something on a post-it. Don't let yourself, guys, do it all by yourself. Ask people to do it for you. So like, if I have a group of people, we need to work on some ideas, I never would say, okay, this is a Jamboard, and I put it down, I type it out, type it all for you. No, I'll ask people, okay, go to the Jamboard, this is the link, and type your own post-it, as many as you can. So people do things, actually just not only listen passively. And some things that are for online kind of important, if you produce some pre-work, it doesn't have to be very sophisticated. You can just ask a question and request people to think about this question and come with the answer to the workshop. This is already a simple pre-work, as well as some post-work like follow-up. Okay, there is a read, there is a white paper, there is a task for you to do. That would be also, or if it's not an action plan, that is also something that it will increase the engagement. All right, Bartosz, I'm checking on time because it's 12:02. Can we spend like a few more minutes, or we are so strict that we need to switch off already from this event?
I think we can extend a few minutes more. Yes. So
yeah.
That's no
so it's basically, no more content from me, but this is actually a good time because that would be the last opportunity for you guys today to ask me anything on the topic. If there is any question or any request, place it now in the chat, and I'll try to answer this. Do we have any?
I don't see anything new showing up, so I think there are no questions.
Okay, so if there are no questions, let's go to the final bit. And once again, and this is the last time today because we'll be saying goodbye in a few minutes, I have a request. Please go again to Menti. So again, grab your phones, grab your smartphone, go to Menti, and I'm going to display now a different code because it's a different question. Okay, just bear with me a moment because I need to switch off the previous one and go to the new one.
Sorry, Joanna. In the meantime, the one question appeared in a chat box. Could I just read it out loud?
Of course, please.
I've used the Zoom a lot, but never chat rooms. What's the best way to start using them? Is it technically difficult?
Okay, so chat rooms, in Zoom, they're called breakout rooms. It's very easy function. You will see it in a bottom bar of the Zoom application. And this is very easy to use. It actually requires 2 steps. First of all, you open that feature, and it asks you how many groups you want to create. and you just type it. Okay, if I have a group of 12 and I want to create 3 groups, Zoom would assign automatically 4 people in each breakout rooms. You have a choice actually to do it automatically, and you have a choice to do it manually. So you can actually assign names, because you will see them displayed. You can assign names to certain rooms. Then the second step is to set up the timer and to say, all right, people will stay in breakout rooms for like 10 minutes. After 10 minutes, they receive a notion of 60 seconds countdown, for instance, and then you just press send people to breakouts. And it's from participants' point of view, it's very easy. You actually don't do anything. You even sometimes don't touch your keyboard, because you will be automatically transferred to the breakout room. So it's that easy. You just need to try it once to know how to operate that.
One more question about the AIF term. Sorry, what does it stand for? So I'm reminding, it's for International Association of Facilitators. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so we can get back to the.
Okay. Right. So I hope your Menti page is already open. I'm displaying a new code on the top page, on top of the page. I
think you just stopped sharing your screen, so we can't see.
All right. Okay. Let me just go there again. That's the last thing we're doing, guys. So we're nearly there.
Okay.
Yeah. You should be seeing right now, and then on the top there is a code. My request to you, to all participants now, is just to give one word, type in one word that is on your mind right now after this hour of me talking on the topic of online facilitation. How would you summarize it with one word? And all right, so we have the first one. And this will appear as a workflow. Oh, look at that. We have already many others coming. So this is, by the way, this is, it's nice ending, but also at the same time, you will immediately get some feedback to the work that you've done. Engagement, practical, straightforward, cool, communication, inspired, team effort, nice, engagement. And and communication seems to be being taken by more than just one person. That's why it appears as a bigger word, like straightforward and communication. So thank you, guys. This was, from me, very speedy and very quick. I tried to keep it straight and easy. I hope you can use it and get curious for more. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Joanna. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Please, after leaving this webinar, answer a few short questions at our evaluation survey. Stay tuned and follow our page to register for another webinars and EaSI events soon. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Stay curious, and all the best, guys, from me. Thank you for listening.
Thanks. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.